Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of PLC Photographers Lounge Chats. It's a bi-weekly show where we do it live on a Discord server. If you're watching this or hearing this anywhere else, make sure to check the show notes, where you can find links to the server and you can join us live. Of course, if you're live with us right now, you can see that there's another channel right above the one you're in right now, where it's called Podcast Chat. You can leave your questions there. You can talk about whatever you want about the podcast while you're watching. And some people are gathering the questions that we can address them during the show. My name is Jimmy, and today I'm joined here with me with Eva.
Hi.
And online we have as well Cedric. How are you, Cedric?
I'm fine. Very, very fine. First day of vacation. Very happy.
Nice. So today we're going to talk about editing, I hear. Is that true?
Yes,
Yes.
rumor has it. We're
Nice.
gonna talk about editing.
Cool. So let's get into it. I see a few people joined. Reminder: double check that there's a podcast chat channel.
Mhm.
Talk to each other there and leave us questions as we go.
I will be monitoring, so anything that comes up, I will be able to bring it up here.
Perfect. So Cedric have prepared a few slides for us to look at and talk about. So let's jump
Mhm.
into those. Right. So, what are we looking at here, Cedric?
Yeah. So the first thing I think we hear when we talk about editing in general is editing, what digitally at least, is cheating. That's one of the first things that you hear is cheating. I don't edit and those type of things. So what I wanted to do is to have a conversation about a lot of the mystifications that are around the editing part of the trade. And so simply just here I have a few pictures of enlargers in dark rooms, which is the tool that's used to make prints. So that's me.
That is you right there,
10 years
isn't
ago.
it?
And I had an enlarger in my room, and also enlargers in the school I went to. And those are the
for
two.
the
That's what we
school.
call a dark room,
Yeah.
where you project the light through the negative and into photosensitive paper to make a print. And,
I
a
wanna-
lot of things happen, as you know.
Yeah.
Jimmy is a big expert. Jimmy and Eva, you're both big experts on analogs, on analog photography here in the server and on your own channel. There's a lot of things that have been transposed to the digital world, and people might just not realize it.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I just want to ask you a quick question. Since we can see some of the pictures here, it's like famously known that you've seen it in the movies as well. There's a red light. So what's that about? Why? Like, is it okay to open your film camera in there, or what is the purpose of the red light?
No, I found the question funny coming from you, but yeah, no. So the red light is only for printing. You can't show the film to any. You can't expose the film to any type of light, because otherwise it imprints the film itself. So you develop it in complete darkness. You have to remove it either from the canister or the roll and put it into a tank and use chemicals to develop it. And once it's developed, then fix. So fix means that it's not going to be sensitive to light. Light is not going to change it anymore. Then you go into a dark room where there's going to be a light, especially with black and white film, and because the paper used is not going to react much to that type of wavelength. It will, with time, if you leave paper out in the open in the dark room next to the lights,
It will pick up something.
If you leave it too long, you're going to see the thing. But if you just do taking the paper and putting it on the enlarger, basically it's a projector, the enlarger.
Yeah.
And you reproject light, and from the negative, you get a positive.
It's a top-down projector.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
then Yeah, that
This
one
is
you can.
this is specifically
you can
like
move it to
for
the side
cool.
and project on walls if you want.
Nice. That's if you want to have a bigger projection.
Mm.
Yeah. And this all is strictly black and white. If you want to do color as well, printing, then you have to do it in complete darkness as well. Right. So, but we're not gonna go too deep into. We're obviously, like all of us here, geeks about this stuff, and we would love to talk about it for ages. But this is not what we're talking about. But it's basically you wanted to tell us how manual it was being in a dark room. There's a lot of techniques that you would use that you, after working digitally as well, you can find it. Like for example, in Photoshop, the tools dodge and burn. These are terms that also exist in the dark room, as well as a lot of other things that exist there.
Originally, it comes from there.
Yeah.
Actually.
So like that purest view in the sense that, or the claim that a real photographer who would like follow tradition or classic ways will not manipulate their images. That is false. Yeah.
It's completely false. Yeah.
Even
Indeed.
if when we were
So
talking
it's
before the podcast,
try to bring a bit of perspective on that.
So yeah, we were talking about this before the podcast about how Ansel Adam, who's one of the fathers of straight photography, basically that like directly no manipulation to the image in terms of stylizing and stuff like that. He still did a lot of work in the darkroom to make his images look as close to reality as possible.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to edit to make it look like you saw it with your own eyes. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the same in digital. You have like there are errors from the medium that you're using, either film or the sensor itself that you need to correct. So if you want to be as close as possible to reality, it's a fine thing to want to do, but it involves editing.
Of course,
you can't really go around it.
I think like a lot of the appeal of HDR photography, for example, is that it will make the photo closer to how you see it with your eyes, because like our eyes have a more high dynamic range than most cameras. So people, some people might take it too far, but that's maybe their taste. That's up for debate if it's too much or too little when it comes to HDR.
Something that's really interesting that you mentioned HDR. It's like 15 years ago, HDR is basically what we can do now with sensors, because the dynamic range has tremendously evolved and it's gotten larger with newer sensors. So like the camera I had like 15 years ago maybe had 8 EV of dynamics range, and the ones I have now have 14. So it's the HDR what you used to do like 15 years ago is not the same at all as the HDR one would do today. Right.
So now we're looking at the screen. I think we talked about this slightly. I see here some dodging happening. So what is this thing? The technician, let's call him darkroom technician. Is that you or some of your friends?
No. It's that's a slide. It's a screenshot from the
war photographer.
War photographer, which is an excellent documentary about James Nachtwey. So it's the part of the documentary where you see the printer working for James, and he's sending him in and out of the dark room like maybe 5 or 6 times just to change tiny details on a big print for one of his exhibitions. And so you see him using like the Dutch tool in I don't know how it's called in English, but in French we call that araignée. So it's a spider, but basically, and it's basically masking. It's masking parts so that it's not exposed to light for the same amount of time than the rest of the paper. But it's something that we do with levels and curves and adjustment layers in Photoshop. We just mask it, but it's so much easier now because you just have to click a few times.
Here at the bottom, you see they're making a bigger adjustment in terms of size on the image. I think what they're doing is they're putting their hand on the light source to create a bigger shadow. So that so basically, for those of you who never tried to work in the darkroom, the more light that hits the paper, the darker it's gonna get. because a negative is the reversed color. So everything that is white becomes black and black stays white because the paper is white. So if you want to make a spot of the photo brighter, you stop the light from hitting it, and that it will stay brighter, because if the light has more contact with it, it will go darker and darker as time passes. So that's why people would do such a thing. And that's the same thing basically with dodge and burn tools in Photoshop. What they do is that they locally increase or decrease the exposure.
Yeah, exactly. You can also do it in Lightroom, actually.
Yeah.
Photoshop. Field manipulation. This is cool. When you think like, yeah, I should not be removing things from my photos if I want it to be a proper photo.
They did a not bad job for the time, I think.
It's directly cutting into the film and trying to patch things. It's very, how do you call that? It's a craft. It's a type, it's a do-it-yourself type, trying to get it work, because the pressure was immense. Like, get that guy out of my picture, and then okay, boss, we'll try to do it. And in the Soviet Union, you've got a lot of examples of that, because Stalin did a lot of it, requested a lot of it to be done. So the idea that removing things from images is a new thing from the digital age is completely wrong. It has happened. People have played around with the medium for as long as it exists. Basically, that's how they improved their craft, their skills.
Definitely. And also, I mean, the part of before with analog photography, if you wanted to try something new, you had to experiment, you had to test, you have to change things. And from those tests and those even mistakes, sometimes new waves of art will come from that. So I think manipulating photos is completely a part of the process, either personally, but also as a craft in photography. That's how photography has evolved throughout, I don't know, the 150 years that it's been out, more or less.
Cool. But let me ask you both this. Do you think it has... This all sounds lovely, right? It sounds lovely. It sounds so beautiful. But is there a dark side?
There is a dark side, obviously.
All right.
One of the dark sides, it would be deception. For example, if you can manipulate the photos, you can maybe recreate reality for your own will and wishes.
Okay.
And that could be used as a good thing or as a bad thing. As we know, every power can be used in the wrong way, right?
Very interesting. For sure, yeah. If you're a journalist, for example, you can twist the facts because people will assume that this photo is a representation of reality, for example.
Exactly.
But then if you change it, then you're falsifying evidence, basically.
Yeah, you're recreating.
All right.
Yeah.
It's a big no-no in the photojournalist world
photojournalism.
to manipulate your images. And so I think it's fine to do whatever you want, especially as a hobbyist who has no pressure on their shoulders. But just be honest about it. If you remember a few years back, there's been a Nikon contest.
Yes, I remember.
A guy photoshopped a plane into a shot that looked so
the
well
buildings,
timed,
like in between the buildings, the plane was coming in. It was kind of like a down top shot like this, and then it turned out that he had photoshopped the plane in to that. So he had taken the original photo with the buildings up into the sky, and then he had put the.
All right. So what's the problem there? Why was it not okay to do so?
I think there's no problem at all in a vacuum to do it.
Yeah.
But if it's to try to win a contest where other people assume you should not manipulate your pictures, it puts you at an unfair advantage in that context. But in itself, do whatever you want, no problem.
But it's interesting because if they specify in that contest that you're not allowed to edit?
Yeah.
And then they went ahead and edited regardless. So
it was basically fusking, like
cheating.
Cheating.
Fusking.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's
in Swedish.
That's Swinglish. It's not even Swedish.
That's true.
Yeah. So, cool. All right. So you should be. So basically, what you're telling me is that if you should know as a photographer if it's okay to manipulate the images depending on where they're gonna end up.
Yes.
So be honest about it. Basically, is what's your best bet.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you present, let's say, if it's not so clear that you are a digital artist rather than a photographer, let's say, because like, let's say, okay, so is a photographer adding, and like, because we see this example with Stalin is a bit of an extreme example.
It is.
Right.
It
So,
is.
but the technique is nothing. It's nothing new. So that's, I think that's a fair point. But I think this is an extreme example. I'm wondering, is there a line between a photographer and a digital artist that uses photography for their creation? Like, is that a is the
as the
as a
baseline, you
category?
mean? Yeah.
Like, so for example, a war photographer, a wildlife photographer, who basically they
Digital.
just go and take their shots, and then they fix the colors a little bit, like Ansel Adams style, basically just making sure the levels are up
Correct.
to their
Yeah.
taste. But then there's another photographer who's basically adding and compositing and doing all those kind of stuff, merging 5-6 images together to have a picture. Is that still photography, or are we talking about a different field of art? Is there a point in drawing a line between the two?
I personally, I think there are many different styles of photography. I think there might be a line that I would start considering that, okay, this is more digital art
Mm-hmm.
that uses photography rather than photography itself. But I'm not too much into policing what people do as individuals. So I will be able to recognize what type of picture it is. What I don't like is when you're dishonest about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
With the examples we cited earlier,
Mhm.
I think the line will be personal. There are people who will be much more strict, and people will be very loose with it. And yeah, I think that is very personal.
I
But
think,
what's important is you should not lie, basically.
yeah, but I think it's important to know yourself in a way, like as an upcoming photographer or an artist in general. I think it's important to know how to classify yourself. Not like it's not about how people classify you or how people see you or how people criticize you or any of that. No, but what I'm thinking is, let's say you're an upcoming photographer, up and coming, and you're trying new stuff and you're learning and you're advancing. But at the same time, eventually, maybe you're trying to get a career in this. Maybe you're trying to build a name for yourself. Maybe you're trying to, get jobs. So for example, a photographer like Gregory Crutzen is the name.
Mhm.
Well, Gregory is famous for basically setting up his shots. There is no lie about it. It's actually pridefully done. There's a documentary that he was a part of about his way of making photos, and the photos are shot on 8x10,
Big
and they
production.
usually shoot like 50 negatives of the same frame, and then they composite all of these together. And what they do is they close whole streets, like they
In
close
cities, yeah.
and they set up the whole thing.
It's like making a movie.
They have
basically.
a light on it. Yeah, it looks, any photo set of his looks like a movie set. There's like 60-70 people on the set working with walkie-talkies and stuff just to make one picture, right? So if you want anything like that, I mean, Gregory is a fine artist. He's doing his own vision, but I know if I want something like that, I can commission Gregory Crutzen. He's the man for the job. You know what I mean? For example, your friend
Regis, yeah.
Regis, we talked to him. He's a street photographer. Basically, he goes into the areas where awful things are happening, and he wants to tell the story. And he's not into making the shot attractive in any way. He's more important of the story, of the document. He's a journalist. And so if I want something like that, I know I talk to Regis. He's the man for the job. I'm not going to ask him to make a photo set like Gregory Crutzen. Both of them are photographers, but they're very different photographers. And they're both very straightforward about what they're doing. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's important to identify yourself, at least when you're putting your work out there, that I'm a composite artist. I can make beautiful images from snippets. And I think it's art. I remember growing up, I had some friends who would make these amazing boards of like cutouts from newspapers. They collages. They look so amazing. I never made a collage in my growing up. I didn't even know where to begin, and I always found them so fascinating. So I don't think it's a knock on somebody if they composite images, especially if they do it like tastefully. You know what I mean? I just think that you should own it. That's what I'm trying to say.
This is what I think. Cedric also agrees. Is that the wrong thing is to say that you made a photo or equalize. Let's see how I explain this. To say that the photo you created, it was done with the same skills or the same techniques as someone else that doesn't do the editing that way. Because you are comparing two things that cannot be compared, right?
Yeah.
And then you are putting yourself like, oh, I'm so good that I can do this with the same equipment and the same things as this other person, without being honest that you are doing so much more to your photos afterwards. This is, I think, where the wrong line is, right? If you edit your photos to hell and back and you create a beautiful product, that's great, own it, but be honest with your process and don't try to come off as like, I created this great photo just going out there and clicking, flip and put into the computer and that's it. Right. Because it's not true, you know? And then that's deceiving also to people that are learning, that are coming into photography, that they believe that those kind of things can be done. And then they think less of themselves if they are not able to get such a result, you know?
I agree.
So to me, this is the wrong part about editing. Do whatever you want with your art. Put your fingers into paint and paint a wall, but just be honest about the way you do it, so other people can also learn from it.
Yeah.
Why you? That's why you have to learn about how editing is, the importance of editing in the making of the product.
Yeah.
If we can't call it a product, if you're working or the artwork or whatever, you have to be, whatever your level, the fastest you realize what gets put into making
such a thing. Yeah.
How much time is spent on it definitely will help you identify those people who are less honest, and you'll be able to realize, yeah, okay, if I want to do this, maybe I need to be more patient and work 5 years on really learning the editing techniques and getting better at it. And so you're less, as a beginner, you're less hard with yourself. Because if you know how far the goal is, you don't have to feel bad because you can't do it right away.
True.
That's also a good point, indeed.
All right, we've been staring at Stalin for way too long.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to the next one? All right, so what are we looking at here? I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah. It's
okay, before we start,
these
from
were
this,
during the Belgian
I
floods.
have a question that I think can be a good segue for this, because
Okay.
a lot of people come into photography and they are like, all right, if I want to be a photographer, do I actually need to edit the photos? And if I have to edit the photos, do I really have to shoot RAW, or is JPEG okay? Right? A lot of people come in and they're asking that. So what's the difference between shooting in JPEG in my camera or shooting RAW, and do I actually need to edit my photos? And I think we already answered this last question. Yes, you need to edit your photos. If
You can. Feel free
you can edit your photos, you know, like it will probably elevate your game and elevate your results if you edit your photos than just right out of camera.
Yeah.
And it is because it has been done since forever. Since photography is photography, people have been editing the photos. These are already answered. So now, what is the difference between shooting in JPEG and shooting RAW?
Right.
So definitely, I think if you ask me, I think you should shoot RAW. Though there might be, we talked about this in voice chat earlier. There's situations in which JPEG can be useful. But yeah, the difference is JPEG is basically an output. There's been
editing. There has been
effects applied
editing
to
done.
the picture. It's been output in a lossy format. And while the RAW retains all the data that the sensor captured. And so that means you can edit it non-destructively, which means you can go back to it, you can change your mind, you can, while anything you do to a JPEG, if you save, you start putting into the code of the image, start putting errors, and the more you save over it, the more it degrades, and it's just not the professional way of editing. But as I said, there are situations in which it can be useful if you work in events and you need to put a lot of pictures out quickly to people doing the communication and whatnot, and they will just put filters on the JPEGs, and it can be fine, but only in those types of situations. But I've known professionals who are like, nah, I'm only gonna shoot JPEG. It's a bit, yeah, it makes the teeth go a bit like,
I mean,
that's my opinion. Anyway.
I see JPEG is a bit like you are leaving to your camera the first editing of the photo. So actually your camera is editing the raw file to give you a JPEG. So you are basically bound to, you might have a camera that has a lot of nice settings, you know, these things that you can change, which is either like the shadows or the highlights,
the
or
white
the tones,
balance,
the white balance, for example. All that it's an edition of your image that is being recorded on your sensor, and then either you only have this edited one, or if you have raw, then you have the original one, the OG.
Yeah, so basically I'm going to try to restructure the basics here for whoever is not familiar. When you take a photo with any camera, the initial photo that's being taken is always raw. Then what your camera does to the file, it basically applies a preset of edits to it, and that creates a JPEG, and then it gets rid of all of the other information that it doesn't need to have a JPEG. So if you ever shoot RAW, you notice that the RAW file is much larger than the JPEG. And that's because you took just enough information to create that JPEG, applied a few settings. So basically, it's in order for your JPEG file to be viewed on all devices, it needs to be encoded somehow. It needs a translation to become viewable everywhere. Not all devices can show RAW files. And so you only need reference points that are, have specific instructions. So like the reds are this shade, the highlights are this, the shadows are this, whatever. And then boom, you have a JPEG. Now you can edit that JPEG further, but now you're doing whatever you're doing is you're putting edits on top of edits. And that's why people usually tell you not to edit your JPEGs, because they're gonna break down. Because you're not editing the original file, you're not editing the original information. You're adding references on top of references. And that's why, for example, if you have a photo of a sunset with a gradient, if you edit a JPEG version of that photo, you will see the gradient starts to split into bands, because there is not enough information in the file to fill up this smooth transition. And there's a lot of other problems that you're gonna run into if you're editing JPEGs. Now, if you're someone who doesn't want to edit, look into buying a camera that has pictures that you like. So I know a lot of people love Fuji.
I was about to say that example, because I have a Fuji camera, one of my small ones, rangefinder style. I love it, and actually I realized that some of the emulations that are called, so there are presets of how the photos are gonna look, are beautiful. So now I realize that even though I do like editing my photos, I really like these two. I have one setting for black and white photos, and I have one for color photos, and then I have my camera in shooting RAW plus JPEG, so I can always have one that is being done with the camera, color science, editing, whatever it is. And for most of it, I love it. Like I don't do anything else. I get the photos, and it's like, I really like them because I really love how the camera pre-edits my photos.
You bring up a really good point. I say if you're not sure about how to work with RAW files, but you plan to do so in the future, or maybe you will, you're still unsure, always shoot RAW plus JPEG. And make sure you have enough space to save the files. And then one day, if you get into editing, you'll have all your previous shots in RAW file that you can now play with and maybe come up with really cool things down the line. I still edit a lot of my old photos. Every once in a while, I'll go back in my library and find something that I neglected, or at the time, I wasn't sure what I saw. Because a lot of times I snap a photo because I saw something there. But when I go home, I'm like, why did I even shoot this? I don't see I just don't see what I saw at the moment of shooting it. I visited years later and I'm like, oh, look what I did there. Nice work, me. You know, I edit the file and I'm happy with it. But so yeah, always store your RAWs if there is nothing wrong. Don't tell you that you're wrong for shooting JPEGs. If you're happy with it, go ahead. If you plan to edit, then RAW is gonna give you better images. You and everybody who's gonna look at these images are gonna be happier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that settles it. Nothing wrong with shooting JPEG if you don't plan to edit.
Yeah.
All right.
That's good. So here I guess, Cedric, you put like Lightroom is a library and a RAW developer. So basically Lightroom, it's able to read these images that come out of your camera that have all the information stored from the sensor, right? And then from there you can develop your picture. That's actually what you do, even though it's a digital development.
Yeah, the library part is something also that's very useful if we want to keep everything organized and be able to seamlessly go from having your pictures in one place to editing them. But Lightroom also has a limitation, is that it's not what we would call a digital darkroom.
Mm-hmm.
The tools that you can use in Lightroom are limited, though, with the consequent releases of the application. More tools have seeped in, and it's become more precise. But still, it's not Photoshop. You won't be able to be super precise with it. But if you are just shooting, say, events and want to have a normal develop, as you said, it's developing. If we do an analogy with analog, it's just developing, but not doing the enlarger part and or the film manipulation part. Then it's fine. And it has a big advantage, is you can apply one edit to all other RAWs if you wanted.
Yeah.
You can apply one edit to the others, which is useful in batch editing. So if you have the same lighting conditions for several shots, you can just say, okay, it's basically the same. I'm just going to copy my first edit. So I have a general idea of what I want.
Speaking of batch editing, what do you think about presets?
It's super important to have your own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, super important. It's very useful. And if you don't make your own, you're going to lose a lot of time, especially if you're on assignments. And what happens is, as I said, like you have a shot and you see the 10 or 20 next shot are going to be more or less the same. Then I edit one and I can save it and say, maybe I'll have to reuse this type of editing further down the line. Mm-hmm. But then there's a question, and that's in the part. Until now, I've been very agreeable with any type of photography, like in the discussion. Like you can do whatever. I'm not bothered by anything. But once you get into the part with preset, what happens is that people are selling their presets as the be all and all of, like, you're going to take shortcuts, your pictures are going to look wonderful, and here are my presets, you get 70 for $90 or whatever, and people just buy into that. And I think it's a lack of education on what editing is and how you are supposed to use presets.
Yeah.
And it's basically holding people back from learning from themselves. And I think people choose that too because they don't want to put in the effort, like subconsciously. I'm not impugning them saying like you're lazy or whatever. It's just like subconsciously, when you see the mountain that is learning editing, you can be discouraged, and so it's tempting. And so there's a point where the casual shooter meets the greedy, marketing savvy
influencer
person wants to exploit. And so yeah,
especially in like commercial photography, client photography, weddings, the market for presets is insane. it's incredible the amount of money they ask for these presets, and also like people realize that it doesn't work for every kind of photo. That it's not a one-click solution. When you get these presets, you still need to work on them.
Let me ask you a question, both of you. How hard is it to make your own presets?
Very easy, super easy.
Do you have to be a programmer?
It's easy.
No. You have to. So I have done my own presets for the client work that I do, because there is this specific way of editing my photos that I feel very close to me, and I feel represents the photos I like taking and I like delivering. So once I have created a photo that I really like, you only have to click 2 buttons. So all the changes that you do in terms of like different colors, hue, saturation, any levels in your shadows, in your blacks, in your highlights, in your whites, all that is gonna get saved, and then you can just click the button next time, and it's gonna apply all those settings to a photo. That's what a preset is, basically.
All right. So it's just like it saves all your settings.
Yes,
and
all
then
the settings that you
reapplies
wanted
them.
to save. Yeah.
Right. All right. And is it also so that's on Lightroom, right?
That's on Lightroom.
All right. What about you, Cedric? You're more of a Photoshop wizard. How hard is it to do it on Photoshop?
Well, then you can. Photoshop has its own RAW developer plugin, which is actually it's called Adobe Camera Raw, and it's the plugin that spawned Lightroom.
Yes.
Lightroom is built around Camera Raw. And so it's the same. It's not the same interface. It looks a bit different. If you go to the next slide, you can see the difference. It looks a bit different. The tools are a bit placed differently, but I find it more comfortable. I have my uses on Camera Raw.
That's Camera Raw, right?
But it's basically the same. You can make presets. You can apply them. You can. You see it's the same picture, but you see my edit.
Can I tell you one thing really quick?
The sliders have changed and everything.
By the way, wait. I just want to clarify. Sometimes if I talk, I want you all to know that Cedric cannot hear me. He's not rude or anything.
Yeah.
He cannot hear because he's on Zoom. I've done some tests before, and whenever he's talking, I'm completely suppressed. I just wanted to say something about this before we move on. I just really love this thing in Camera Raw.
For the white
way
balance?
better than Lightroom.
Yeah.
Way better. Why is it different? I mean, why would you make it so different? And here's a tip, by the way. In Lightroom, if you're using the color picker to do the white balance, you can resize it. Because I didn't know this for the longest time. And if you scroll up and down, you can resize the area of pixels that you're
sampling from.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry, you go ahead. So this is this is the edit you did with Camera Raw.
But then the thing, and I think with what we, with regards to what we talked earlier with the marketing of presets, is that often the presets. What is shown of it is the preset plus the time spent in Photoshop to make the image look good. Not to mention that those photographers usually pick the pictures in the best locations,
best lighting conditions. Yes, definitely.
The most exotic places that you need, like you need to go to Iceland, you need to go to the Lofoten Islands. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. They're not going to show the presets work on everyday pictures because they won't first. And then there's, you spend, to have the result, you do your editing, which can be saved as a preset. You open into Photoshop and you keep working further onto the picture. And Photoshop is just like endless possibilities. It's used for so many different things that...
Here's a tip that not a lot of people know about. You can create a lot, that you can apply in video. You can create LUTs using Photoshop. So it's not just a few clicks and you make your own presets. You can make your presets and you can turn them into video LUTs as well. Photoshop is really powerful. I'm assuming that Affinity I haven't tried. A lot of people love it. I assume that if you have that, you probably can do the same thing as well. And here's another tip. If you like a preset and you want to buy it, just steal it. And, just take that image, put it in Photoshop, go to YouTube, how to match a image, how to match colors, how to copy an image look. You'll see a bunch of videos teaching you how to basically make your own, or like how to match a look to a movie scene. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. And then when you're done, create the presets of everything that you've done, and now you can apply those to any image. And once you do it yourself, you will learn about the small adjustments that you have to make to every image to actually make it look the same. Because as Eva and Cedric mentioned, you, even when you buy presets or you download free ones or whatever, or you make your own, every image is going to have different levels, it's going to have different values. So whenever you make a preset, this is your histogram, and you're telling I'm simplifying it here, but you're telling your computer or your editing software to apply specific settings to that section of different sections of the histogram. But what might happen from one image to another is that your histogram might shift one way or the other. So your highlights or your shadows or your mids might not fall precisely in the same place, and therefore your preset needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, exactly, because you never start from the same starting point.
Exactly.
And I have even my own preset that happens. Like if I have different light temperature from the beginning, or something, it's different. You have to work with it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's fine if you just want to pay for it and not learn anything about it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's big photographers, even, movie makers. They have teams working. They send their work somewhere, So if you want to do it, fine. Just know what you're getting into. I've seen photographers that send all of their work to different editors. Like they just jump between editors. I was in a conversation with this guy, and he has a big following. He seems to be established, and he's like, yeah, I don't edit my photos. I just send it. I pick a different editor every once in a while, and that way I can see my work being edited in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And also I give them a shout out. Like I give, beginners,
process, yeah.
A chance to put out their work to a larger audience, because that photographer doesn't see Instagram as a serious platform. They just do it for fun. Their work is with clients and in galleries and stuff like that. So for them, why not? You want to edit my photos. I'll put them on my Instagram.
There are a ton of people that work as that. Like I get emails like suggesting like, oh, do you want to work with us? We're an editor company. If you want to get your workload off a bit,
Mm-hmm.
especially when, if some people are shooting, I don't know, 2-3 client shoots a day. Sometimes there's no more hours in the day to do all the editing and everything.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about Gregory Crutzen as well just a minute ago. He doesn't touch the editing. He just goes into the room. There's 4 or 5 people working there, and they show him a bunch of different stuff. He's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, change this, do that, bye. See you later. And he comes back. What do you think? Perfect. Everything I wanted, you didn't. And then he leaves the room.
Yeah.
And then, he sees it when it gets to the printer. So, you can, if you want to compartmentalize, like if you want to buy it, sure, go ahead. It's your money. It's your life.
But don't think that you have to do less work just because you have a bought preset.
Yeah, but if you are a beginner and you want to learn, these people who are selling do not really care who buy their stuff.
Yeah.
As long as they sell, that's the selling model. They're not bad people. They made a product that has a market, and they're buying it. But you, as a beginner, know what you're getting into, know what you're gonna expect. You're not seeing the full picture. If you think that it's a one magic button that you click every time and your photos are gonna look amazing, it doesn't always fit.
I know. My only thing is that I know that some of these people selling presets, they do take advantage of the ignorance of people, and instead of being proactive and teaching people how things are, they just leech on their ignorance, and they try to sell them something that is not true, and that I'm completely against, because it's not the way to learn, it's not the way to share, it's not the way to bring the craft forward.
I mean, in on the other hand, there's a lot of people on YouTube who will teach you how to do all that stuff.
Exactly.
For like as far as you're concerned, for free. All you have to pay is look at a few ads, basically, You don't have to pay them anything. Is it okay if I plug a channel that I really like?
Go ahead.
There's a guy called Pix Imperfect.
Pix Imperfect, yeah.
Regardless of what the end result looks like, sometimes I like his end result. Sometimes he does the style that I'm not really a fan of, but he's really good at explaining things, and he has a ton of videos teaching you how to do
Photoshop, yeah.
everything on Photoshop. And Flern as well is another.
Flern, yeah. Flern is very nice. Aaron Nace from Flern, he's
Yeah.
a really good teacher as well.
Yeah, go and learn how to copy other images, and then your favorite movie, you can watch it and take a screenshot, put it in your Photoshop, and just make your images look exactly the same. And that way you can do it precisely for every image.
Yeah, for sure.
And you learn, and I think that's the crux of everything, is to learn what you're getting into, and learn to see what happens, and learn how the world works, especially with regards to social media. You're not in a kind of relationship with the content creator. You're into your clients.
Mm-hmm.
To those people, and that's the type of dynamics you have to take into account. Also, the fact that Instagram is not an app that is made for the users. The users are the product; they are the target, and so there's something that's hidden. It's hidden of general knowledge usually, and those types of. And so when you look at a feed, for instance, it's selling products. It's selling a lifestyle. It's showing celebrities into their environment, and it can be like real celebrities, like cinema or actors, musicians. But it's the same for the photographers who made it on social media. Mm-hmm. They've become celebrities in their own right, and they're selling you stuff. You are the target. Mm-hmm. And if you're not the eyes wide open on that fact, you just can buy into a lot of weird stuff without realizing it. And that's what's important to me, is that people realize that some people they might idolize have an agenda behind that. Might be it's okay to be a businessman too, but I find it a bit, when it's hard to realize what you're getting into. When you go into a store, it's clear, I want to buy something. But when you're on social media, the lines get a bit fuzzy. And that's what I'm against, I guess.
Yeah, well, social media itself is being fuzzy. I mean, Instagram has been under fire recently. I don't know if you've been keeping up, but it looks like all the photographers are moving somewhere else.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I heard about that, but I didn't.
Yeah, I started posting on Twitter. I posted a few things on Twitter as well. I didn't get any engagement. I think I got a like from a big magazine, Emulsive one. I think they like one of my photos. But anyways, I mean, the cool thing. See, now this is. I mean, the cool thing is that when somebody like that with tons of followers like your photo on Twitter, it's shown to everybody else that follows them.
The engagement is much different than in Instagram.
Instagram is not designed basically to help you grow, while Twitter, the way it works, just because it's something that helps everything on it go viral, whether it being a small text or whatever it is. So so you know how it works. Like if Elon Musk, for example, likes anything, it's gonna show up on my feed because I follow Elon Musk. But not just me, millions of other people. So whatever that like button for him is a big influencing machine. Yeah. It's a megaphone. So if he hits like on anything, millions of people there's a chance that millions of people are going to see that he liked that post, and now they're looking at it, and they would have not otherwise seen it. And so Instagram, the way it works is that for some reason it just decides what to show you, but there is no organic way of controlling that. It's basically
But only if you go to the Explore tab. That's the thing. You need to be actively seeking new.
Well, okay. So if you're following hashtags, it will show you posts from that hashtag. If you like a lot of people, it'll show you posts from those people that you follow. The Explore tab is just a mess. I don't even go there.
No.
And even the stories, you can set notifications. So like if you're really a big fan of somebody, whenever they post, you get a notification from them. But as a new photographer, nobody's gonna set notifications for whenever you post, and you have to somehow become viral to start. There's a lot of photographers that I follow that I never see their photos, because I open Instagram, I look at 6 pictures, 10 pictures max, and then I close the app because I get saturated. I can't see more than 10
It's too
anymore
much.
and appreciate them. So I look at first 10 pictures and I get out. And if and a lot of my best friends, I never see their posts anymore. A lot of people that I start following recently, I see their posts next day, but then next week, never see their photos. I just only see the top famous people that Instagram thinks I really wants to see. Those are the ones that they pop up first. And then I'm already bored here and I get out. And if you try to go to the stories, good luck seeing anything besides ads.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of ads on Instagram is crazy. And then the algorithm is showing you whatever it wants to show you to keep you looking at ads, basically. That's why if you go to the explore page, is all reposts from TikTok, because those people who use TikTok figured out that they need to tease you to the last minute of the TikTok to reveal whatever they're doing. And so they keep you watching. And then you go in there, it's just like TikTok. I could have just opened TikTok if I wanted to see TikTok reposts. It's just Instagram is a mess recently. So
It
this is what I've been experiencing. This is what a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, on the chat there's a big conversation about this. CB was saying the Instagram CEO said that it's not a photo sharing platform anymore. So now that they're gonna focus on other products like, I guess, small reels and IGTV and videos and stuff like that.
IGTV is never gonna happen. There's no way they can compete with YouTube. And I mean, Vimeo tried, and
Aimbot is saying Twitter is for politics and edgy opinions, not pictures. That's actually not true.
No?
Like, it has changed a lot. Twitter also now, you can put up to 4 pictures in every post, and tweets with pictures do 10 times better than tweets without pictures. And really the way that the interaction between people can happen on Twitter is so much better for photography as well. And there is a lot of photographers moving to Twitter now that are getting follows of like on the thousands of people within 5-6 months just by being engaged and talking to other photographers and getting into the conversation. So I think it's a pretty good option.
I mean, the other day I opened Twitter and I'm following Ilford, and they retweeted a photographer that did a trichrome image, and I've shared it on the server before. It looks exactly like the one that I took of Eva. If you have seen it, it's Eva 3 times and on different trichrome channels. I'm not gonna go into explaining what it is. It's just a weird technique. They
that
posted
gets very
it,
good photos.
and then I had a very similar photo, and then I just left it there in the comments.
Yeah.
And then
you just can reply to it, and then
you can reply with pictures, and it's so cool.
Because it's different than the comments. The thing is that every tweet individually has its potential to be shared and be seen. It's not the same thing as when in Instagram you have a post and then people comment on it. Those comments are never shown unless you go to that photo and you want to read.
And don't get me started on Instagram comments. It's basically all bots and spam.
It's all BS.
Unbelievable.
It's BS.
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. I mean, just
even if it's real people, it's completely lost of meaning.
Whenever you start getting followers, you lose all the people in the comment section. It's all bots. They get lost. Go to any of Joe Rogan's posts. Just go and go in the first second. Sometimes I open Instagram and I see he posted something 2 seconds ago. 6,000 bots already commented on it. So if any human said anything, I'm not gonna reach it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's
Instagram is officially broken.
It's dead.
I should give a Twitter.
I think you will like it.
I haven't been there. I haven't been on Twitter for years.
It's weird how it slipped our mind all this time, because Twitter literally has everything. It has all kinds of communities,
Yeah, it has everything. And there's all sorts of people, and very influential people as well, in many cases. Charlie saying, what about OnlyFans? They are steering away from no safe for work and want to cater to actually artists like the platform was made for. I think for that, Patreon is actually a similar thing to OnlyFans, where a lot of artists are there
Yeah.
as well. But it's a different concept. It's not just a social media. It's more of a product type of thing.
I think fans had a bad reputation at this point beyond repair. They need
I
to
don't
make
think
they need to make
repair.
a new product that is not tainted with that reputation.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, as you said, Patreon. There's a lot of different ones. I've seen a lot of YouTubers using stuff like Buy Me Coffee or another
Buy
one
Me a
called
Coffee,
Coffee. But these even OnlyFans, I think all of these, you need to already have
Establish, yeah.
people coming from somewhere else. There is no browsing feature, for example, on Patreon.
Yeah.
Like on Patreon, all you can see when you go to somebody's account,
It's who you are.
Well, some of the artists that I follow, they actually put like some of their work.
Yeah, like some of like they would put a like a teaser type of thing.
Yeah.
So people that is not a Patreon of them, they will see it. But otherwise, you go into the Patreon, you see the thing that the people you are
Yeah.
subscribed to or like paying.
But there is
for.
no explore page.
There's no explore page, no.
No,
I don't think
I don't think. I don't know. I haven't been using it so much, Patreon, but I don't think there's a
I
prominent.
follow some artists.
Yeah,
that
me too. But I only go and see the people that I follow.
Yeah, yeah.
But I can't see like you might also like this.
No,
And
I don't think so. I don't remember that at least.
Yeah. But anyways, I think
Instagram is dead.
yeah. Twitter is give it a try. Let us know what happens and
follow us.
follow the three of us. Everybody share your Twitter in the chat and we'll all follow each other.
Exactly.
How about that?
I'll give it a try. I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah.
The thing is that I have here a conundrum. Like, if you had Twitter and you have used it for some other thing, for example, my personal Twitter is my personal Twitter. But since I had it since 2009, I have a lot of things about science and science communication, which is what I do for work mostly. So I have not really tapped onto photography. So a lot of the 800 people that already follow me, sometimes they might be like, what is she posting about, right? Because they follow me because they like my SciComm work or something like that. So, I mean, it's a bit of like a game of like maybe you lose some people, maybe you gain some new. So
Yeah, it depends if you're already active or not. But if you're not,
Yeah.
why not start? See what happens.
True.
So I think that was like a very, very big detour.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
it's part of.
I to be honest with you, I messed up, and I didn't open the outline PDF for the show.
Open it now. You open it now?
No, but do you have it open?
No, it's yeah.
So can you put
too,
us?
and I think yeah, we're pretty much at the last part with the beginner's perspective. I think like if we want to go back to summarize a bit
Mhm.
what someone from the perspective of someone is starting photography and is being bombarded with a lot of information, most of it not helpful, which is about gear, about the goals they need to attain, etc. And I think that's an important part of that I'd like to finish on, is that if someone comes into the server, it says I need help, but and then shows you an Instagram feed of some person who's like really famous and has like really tailored content that is showing products and they want to become that. What do we say to them? And yeah, simply what do they need to know? And it's not always a pleasant conversation to have, either for us or for them on that side.
It's definitely difficult because it's like they're not necessarily seeing it clearly, and anything that you try to say opposite of that makes you the enemy. So it's hard to approach somebody. It's like if you're a fan of football and you like a specific team, there is no real connection between you and the team. They don't know who you are. They know they have millions of fans, but they don't know you personally, and they don't really care about you personally being a fan of them. They appreciate the fandom, right? But if you come and talk to me and tell me, yeah, but your team is not really good, I'm gonna we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. It's like It's like it becomes outside of logic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's the same way when you are so enamored by somebody's work and you think that's the only way to do things, and then you want to emulate it. So I think the most, like, ideally, the most important part in that conversation is to extract that, is to peacefully extract the fact that, yeah, there are different styles and, you know, you can develop your own. I think that's the first idea that somebody should realize, that they could be that person. They could have their own style and people would look up to it and say, oh, I wish my photos looked like that. We're all human. It just depends on how much work you put into it, how much stuff you learn. And if you want to be like that someday, well, maybe the easy way is not the right way, because whoever is selling you these presets, they had to work hard to make them, and to establish a following that eventually you heard about them, and now you want to make your photos look like them. I mean, if we look at, okay, I'm gonna go back here for a second to the slides. We also have some additional slides here. So these are basically Instagram profiles from maybe some famous people. I think this is Peter McKinnon, right?
Not this one.
This
wait,
one.
oh, this one? Wait.
Yeah, that's
yes.
him.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see it small on the Zoom.
All right.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's Peter McKinnon.
Let's talk about this for a second. Okay, these photos, there's a few things to notice here. First of all, there's a style, not just in the edit.
It's a cohesive.
There's a vibe where there's recurring themes. There's red. Like, look at it. All of these photos are almost completely desaturated. You have red shoes. You have the tower that is lit up in red. You have a red truck. You have a red background. You have red flare. See, do you have red light on the building? Brake lights that is in, like, flowing. Even in this one, this person with a motorbike, and they're wearing red. So there's an overarching theme. If you take one photo in isolation, it will not necessarily be as dramatic. Some of these photos, some of these photos are better than others. And obviously, he knows how to use a camera. He knows what to do with it. He's been doing this for a long time. So I don't know if he's selling presets or not. Again, I don't follow Peter McKinnon. I've seen some of his videos. He seems like a real nice guy. But I just don't like, anyways, let's not talk about that. So a lot of this work is being done by somebody who knows what they're doing, and they're applying these things to it. The same with this guy. Look, yellow everywhere, yellow, orange, and of course they add the teal to it because that's the popular stuff nowadays is adding.
It's a trend, indeed, clearly.
But again, you see there's a theme of these like close-ups with wide angles. So there's a cohesive thing in
not
the profile.
only in editing, but also in the way that it's shot and in the type of photography.
These, I can tell you that these, like this, for example, you see the water there with this. This is not your, your cousin's camera who he's not using and he gave it to you. This is expensive glass. This is an expensive, like, powerful sensor with like. A lot of things go into making an image the way it looks, and regardless if you like this image or not, I'm not gonna comment, but I'm just saying there's a lot of work that is being done to these photos. It's not just the presets that makes them what they are. Here we have a third one.
Yeah, as you said, they're very carefully crafted and carefully planned, and I think that the preset business. That's where it gets dishonest. Is on the one side, what beginners don't see is that these images require a lot of skill and experience to be able to make that way and to edit that way. And what's being sold is that you can be that in just one click, and that's what I take issue with. And people blindly buying into it, but otherwise, there's nothing to say in either direction about the picture. I have nothing negative to say about these pictures. in any way. What I want to do is take a bit of height and look at the whole picture with the whole business that's on the side, and what type of damage that it can bring in hurdles that it raises for beginners. That's also, as you mentioned, because of the fandom, and that social media creates that fandom, it always has been there, but maybe to a lesser extent. But that also makes discussing about these things really hard, because people will defend their team, as you said, like very bitterly.
Yeah,
it's true. So I think it's important to and again, these things, they come from like experience, from talking to people, from seeing different types of work. And what I mean by when I said these things, I mean the understanding of the complexity of the situation. And I've heard a lot of people say this. It's like it's funny when somebody like criticize your photos, but their photos are worse than yours. I've heard somebody say that, and this statement, or besides being very egoistic, I would say that it's also very flawed in the logic of the fact that the taste in photo is not something objective. Like there is no absolutely beautiful anything. It's just different things are beautiful to different people. And that's the thing about art. A lot of people look at abstract art, for example, and they're like, what is this? A 5-year-old can draw this. And other people would look at it and be mesmerized. We can talk about music the same way. There is so many different genres of music. Why? Have you ever met like somebody who's really, really, really into pop and also really, really, really into death metal? Like, it can happen maybe, but it's very rare. There are different styles, different taste in life. It's same with everything, whether it be music, whether it be food. A lot of people can't take spicy food, and other people won't eat anything without a ton of hot sauce on it. So it's important to understand that we're different. And I feel like a lot of us who've been here on the server for a while, and a lot of the team that helped organize the whole thing, are aware of the differences. It just happens sometimes that people come from different camps. Where we might have been in the past, at least I mean, I'm not officially like a staff member in terms of like the organization, but I make jokes about different styles and different stuff like that. But it's jokes, it's inside jokes. But I would say this: it's important to be open-minded and accepting, but it's also, as a beginner, it's important to understand that if you came into this field with a certain point of view and you have researched it really hard, it's important to realize that you only scratch the surface. And this is general, like it's a good advice about photography, art, or any profession you're going into, or life in general. You never stop learning. It doesn't matter how much experience you have. It doesn't matter how much you've lived. It doesn't matter how old you are. That has nothing to do with anything. The only constant is there is nothing constant. So you never stop learning. People are creating new stuff everywhere. There's so many of us in the world. So just be happy that you're here to be amazed every day.
And learning stuff. Yeah, I mean, in the terms here, if we're talking to beginners and stuff, and we're looking at these influencers or these people, and that kind of, I'm not going to say brainwash, but somehow it feels like they brainwash some people about editing and editing. It's like narrow view. So what I think beginners should have in mind and should think when you see, like, for example, let's say you see one of these profiles that we were looking at now, and you are, whoa, like, I love it. I love these photos. First, you need to realize that you are seeing a whole product being sold to you, which is not only a single photo, but is, as you were saying, how all the photos fall together and the brand that they're selling you, right? But let's say, okay, I really love it, right? And I want to take photos exactly like this. I want my photos to look exactly like this. The next thing you need to realize is that your photos or the things that you really like photographing might not fit well with that kind of editing. So you have to be critical with yourself. It's like, why do I like this? Does it fit with the photos I want to take, or it doesn't? And ultimately think that if you just want to take photos like someone else, you are really not creating anything new. You are copying something, which is not a wrong thing at the beginning, because you need to learn how things are done and you need to learn about yourself and what you like doing. But if that's your goal, you are not really going to get anywhere else after that. So have imitating as your first approximation to photography.
Steal presets.
Steal presets.
That's how you make your own. That's how you learn.
And then see what is it that really fits what you want to do and the kind of photography you like taking, and you evolve constantly and you will evolve your editing. I look at some of my photos from some time ago and I'm like, what was I thinking? I really don't like this. This doesn't look good to me anymore. Back then I was like, oh, I'm the best. I really love this that I created. And now I'm like, no, now I feel like editing my photos this way feels more in tune with how I'm feeling, how I was feeling taking the photo, and things like that. So I think, as Jimmy was saying, be open-minded and don't really buy into what people are trying to sell you, although those you can use as a baseline to get to know yourself, which is ultimately what you want.
Yeah.
This also applies to gear as well. The amount of inner wars we see between different brands and different types of cameras, even DSLRs, mirrorless, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, the whole thing. It's the same, and I think it's a bit different, but the system in which it works is the same. It's to make money, it's to sell stuff, and so they will push newer cameras very easily because you need to buy this. You absolutely need this. We just change 3 little things that won't do anything about the pictures you're taking because it's the same sensor that's in the camera, but you absolutely need this new model. And so on and so on. So there are people who change their cameras every year, every 2 years. You should know that if you buy secondhand something that's 5-year-old, if it's a 24 MP, maybe you'll lose some features. You won't be able to shoot in low light condition as easily, but the pictures you'll get will still be pictures that you can do anything professional with them. So that's another type of trap. That's a bit. It's another discussion, but it's the same system. We are working in the same system where what's being presented to you is not the full picture.
Mm-hmm. I think you brought up a really cool point about gear, and think about this. Think about the most iconic photos ever taken, and realize that they're still iconic. And realize how old the cameras that were used to take these photos are. So like whatever iconic photo, we can start naming classic photographers. It doesn't matter. The camera, the gear does not matter. Pick something that you like, pick something that you're comfortable with, explore, see what you can afford. As long as you can afford it and start shooting. If you want to save up because you really like something, fine. But just don't get too hung up on the gear, especially with your first camera.
And it ties in, sorry.
Go ahead.
It ties in with the editing, actually. Mm-hmm. It's because people don't know that editing is super important and they expect their sensors and the camera to do all the job for them. And so it's two worlds, and it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's the influencers and the type of advertisement that the brands are pushing on social media is because those two systems evolve and they're on a feedback loop each other. Like, I'm going to show this and I'm going to show super cool pictures I took with this camera, but you won't know the amount of editing that's being put on it. Exactly. And so it serves the brand who's like, oh yeah, cool, my new camera, look what it does. You love it, buy it. And it is just on and on and on. And so that's what it's just very dishonest. It's not dishonest because you're supposed to know, but I guess I want to educate people on that. Just realize we're living in a system where people are meant to buy what's being produced. Otherwise, everything crumbles.
I have to say something about A lot of people consume their, information about this from YouTube, from different online magazines. I just want you to know that a lot of these people, they receive those cameras for free. Sometimes to keep, but a lot of times they return them after the fact. And I can tell you this: hand me any camera, like it doesn't matter when it came out. Just right now, put in my hand any camera that I've never touched before, and watch me gush about it. Watch me be so fascinated with all the cute little things and details and the different way it does things. I swear, one time we bought a broken camera from a secondhand store. We tested it and we know it was broken. And I still bought it because it had the coolest focusing screen I've ever seen. It was the Praktica. It's just I've seen so many different focusing screens. And what I mean by focusing screens, when you're working with an SLR, the light comes in the mirror and hits a frosted glass, and in
that's the one where you focus.
Yeah, and in old cameras, there used to be a focusing assist in the middle. So sometimes it's like a circle that splits, and you have to align the lines. Sometimes it's a glass that is more frosted, or more like it has crystals in it, and when the crystals disappear, it means you focused. That one had all of them combined together, and they were rotated. It was so cool. It was so, and I could make so many videos and write articles about the amazing focusing screen that existed. I mean, I came in here in the server. I think I was telling Desi, who was here, about that. I asked him because I know he has a similar one. I was like, "Do you have the same focusing screen? It's so amazing!" So like, we are all geeks about this stuff, and. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying that this thing is happening because of pure deception all the time. Not necessarily. These people are camera geeks just like you and me and everybody is in this room. And if you give any of us a camera that we've never seen before, we're going to be hyped about it.
That's the real fun thing. It's the duality between like knowing that you buy into like, I don't need it, but it's so fun. But you need to reach a point where you understand what you're doing and you're deciding that, okay, I'm going to buy into it. And I'm not just receiving something that is held as a truth. And I don't know because I lack the experience to know. But yeah, it's very enjoyable to be able to acquire new gear and be like, yeah, I'm excited to use it. And it can, as Zivi said in the chat, acquiring new gear can sometimes get you out of a creative rut.
Yeah.
And you just like, oh, I have a new tool and I need to rethink. Your brain needs to rewire to how to use it, and it can just push you into being more creative. But for beginners, clearly, be mindful of the marketing behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's clear.
And maybe get something like this. If you're in a creative rut, and just use it. It doesn't do anything. It just has one button.
It doesn't do anything.
It just has one button that you take picture.
It does everything. That's why
it does everything for you. Exactly. You don't do anything.
I had a lot of fun with disposable cameras too, and they still sell them. And some little places, I think, I don't know, but some stores still have them.
Yeah, they do.
Definitely, yeah. There are actually more companies making now semi-disposable, which is super easy cameras that come already with one film roll, and then you can actually put more film roll in them if you want. You don't have to throw them away.
Yeah, they're reusable, disposable.
Reusable, disposable.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that because I think you one time made a video about a really cool tip that I really like is when you had a tape. And you say like sometimes like you can take this thing out with you. Do you
like
have
a
framing tool? Anything.
You could do it with a lens hood.
Anything.
Basically.
I do it with my hands. I stand like a Hollywood douchebag in the street doing this. I swear that's what I do because I realized that if I do this. When I first started, I only had one lens. It was still have it, the 90mm Tamron macro, and I was shooting everything with a macro lens. I thought to myself, it's a 2.8 90mm, so it has okay low light capabilities. It has macro, and I can do street with it. I can do landscape with it. I can do everything with it. Doesn't matter. It's not a landscape lens or anything, but I can still take the shot. Any other lens that is not macro, is not gonna give me macro. So, you know, that was my thinking at the time. So I got that lens and I was shooting everything with it. And I realized that if I do this at full extension with my hands, that's exactly the frame that my lens will show me. So you can find, basically, if you have one lens, you can find whatever frame at full extension, like full hand extension, gives you the same view of the world. And then maybe if you're using a wide angle, you have to put it here. I mean, do some testing and figure out, put your camera on your eye and then see where the frame matches it. And then memorize that. And then whenever you're going around, that's your lens. That's like a potential picture to be taken. And you're just like, look.
Sometimes I just bring the camera up to my eye and look around.
Yeah. Another tips, since we're on the subject, if you want to like see the photo before you put the camera to your eye, close one eye.
Yeah, that's true. Because you lose the 3D perception that you won't have with your camera.
Yeah.
It's actually a good tip.
Right. Is there any questions in the chat?
No, they were talking about gear because you guys started, so now they're like
How did we
talking
get here?
about gear.
I think they
course.
they started it in the chat and now we fell in the trap.
Maybe. Yeah, they're just like, Sibi saying that getting a new lens will really put her out of a creative rut. And they're talking, Charlie was asking, isn't loaning leasing gear a better idea? And then Sibi was like, well, it depends a lot. I have to say, I have loaned gear just because if you want to test something and you don't know if you want to buy it, it's a very nice idea.
Of course.
Especially when they're so expensive.
Yeah. But yeah.
There's a question here.
Cool.
Tips for finding your own style.
Keep doing it. You know, just do, and then see what you like. We talked about this, I think, last episode, is that you can go to your library and I think Zivi had the tip, or that you can isolate the photos that you've taken with different things.
Yeah,
with different focal lengths. I don't know how much you can kind of isolate in the search, because what's in the picture is also different. But like, you can find your favorite focal lengths by doing that. So if you can filter focal length and see which ones you enjoy the most of the ones you've taken, and then you know, okay, I like my work in the 50, I like my work in the 85, I like my work in the 28, and then do more of that. See what you like to shoot. Where do you shoot without thinking? Where are you flowing? Like, where are you not completely lost and just in the moment with your camera? What are you doing then? Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, it's documentary and street. And it doesn't have to be street the traditional way. I will also take like minimal stuff when I'm outside. So I'm noticing these small corners of the world. It could be just a few lines or a chair or a shadow or anything. That's me. That's how I enjoy it. I like to abstract stuff. You know, I feel like the scene is too real for my sensation of it, for example. So I shake my camera around with a slow exposure and I get like a fuzzy imprint of the scene. So how did I know that? I looked at a lot of people's work and I found that, ooh, this is beautiful. How do I make this? So I've seen this guy who does a lot of impressionism with his camera. He moves the camera around as he takes the photo, and I wanted to learn that. So I started going out and practicing. I didn't really think of like Googling how to do that. I just kind of like reversed engineered it in my head. And maybe that's not how he's doing it, by the way. I don't know. I figured out a way. And so watch stuff, study other photographers' work, try to imitate whatever you like, and then practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think analyzing, as I said before also, understanding what you like and being analytical of yourselves. Like, oh, this thing I like, this thing I don't like. And then trying to understand, why do I like it? How do I make it? How do I include it in the things that I find attractive and that I want to capture in my photography? I think that's pretty useful. What about you, Seth?
Yeah, I think on a more academic way of doing it, like if you go to photography school, to help you with that, and also to help learn the technique, imitating is really one of the big ones, and you learn to know what you like and what you don't like. If you have to work in a style that you don't like, you just say, okay, that's not for me. And being curious. That's very, like, if you see a new technique, you just want to, okay, I want to try it. And if it doesn't click with you, you just can leave it on the side and say, okay, that's not me. And it's basically, yeah, what you all just said. And I think I'd like to add a little word of caution in that regard is talking about the Dunning-Kruger graph. You know, the one, if we can, I don't know if you can pull a picture of it from the internet, which is basically when you start, there will be that.
You think you know a lot, but
yeah, you will have a confidence. You will reach, once you get a bit of skill, you reach, like, you think you can do anything. And then you have to realize, oh, it's more complicated than this. It's gonna take me a while to really get good at this. And to find your style you only find when you're at the end. I'm not sure I found my style. I still feel like a jack of all trades, and I'm not very happy where I am, but I'm much more happy than I was like 10 years ago. That's for sure. It's much more clearer, but it's an ongoing process that almost never ends. And yeah, just be open-minded and just remind yourself, okay, there's a lot that we need to learn, and I have all the time in the world to get there. It's not a race.
Mm-hmm. It took me 10 years to reach this point. I'm right here right now.
I also feel like I'm a bit there. I mean, it depends on which things, but yeah.
I'm way too deep in the valley of despair. I love this graph. It's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, it just means that, yeah, when you think you might know a lot of something, there's much more that you are yet to know.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Once you think you figured it out, double check that you're not here. Just double take, see, look down. Is that the valley of despair? And then strap in and go for it. Zoo. Yeah, I mean, like, you brought up a really good point, Cedric, about the fact that try something and see if you don't like it. But I learned that the hard way, that I'm not a portrait photographer. I hate it with all my heart, and I'm really trying hard to change that. Like, I knew a while ago, and what I reached is that, okay, it's not for me. I can't do it. I'm bad at it, and that's it. And I enjoyed my photography. Now that I'm taking photography more serious with the passing time, I figured out, I know I'm bad at it. It's good to know that I'm bad at it, but maybe it's not good to, maybe I want to do it. And I'm slowly saying to myself, okay, whenever you have the chance, practice. Whenever you have a willing subject to work with you, practice. Try to make them comfortable. Try to see them in a beautiful light. Try to set it up in a different way. And I'm still messing up. I'm still really bad at it. But I know that I'm practicing, and I'm aware. I will not say, hey, I'll charge you this much for a portrait session, because I ethically won't be okay with it. Because even if they like the photos, I don't care. I'm not happy with the photos. So, and that's me. Maybe I'm being too picky about it. But again, maybe you can learn something from my weird experience. I don't know.
I'm in a, regarding portrait, I'm in a similar place, and I've been doing photography for like about the same time as you. I think like 15 years, something like that. And what's hard with portrait is the relationship, and as you said, making people feel comfortable, and finding, while doing that, finding the right angles and the right spot, and just, you're not good at it, but then I just want to enjoy this. And maybe now that I have confidence in other areas, I'll just not try to be good, but if I can just become decent, that will be, you kind of water down your expectations about yourself while you get a bit of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I think my problem is? A lot of people, when they meet me for the first time, they're like, we always thought you were a mean person, or like you hated us, you didn't like us. And I have a strong case of the resting bee face. You know what I mean? I don't look pleasant at all if I'm not smiling.
I never thought that.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. People just think I'm the meanest person. I might still be a little bit mean, but I don't seem as jolly. If I'm thinking, if I'm concentrating, I look like
Yeah, maybe.
This is how I concentrate. You know, so,
Brooding and or angry.
yeah, I'm very frowny when I'm concentrating. So I noticed that when if I'm trying to have a portrait session and I look like this and I'm like, no, turn your face that way. They're like, oh, I must look ugly. Look at him. The way he's looking at me is like I must be looking horrendous right now. So I think if I should wear a mask, you know, like a wrestling mask, and do a portrait session and see if it improves or not. Because I feel like whenever I'm taking photos of somebody, it doesn't matter how calm I am, they're stressed out so much. And then when you do it, you're all smiles and they're so relaxed. When I look at them, they're like,
I mean, it's true. I use a lot of positive reinforcement. Even if I see something that I don't like so much, I'm like, yeah, you're doing great. What about if you move this way? Like, try to, you know, like, you just see me doing
yeah,
it,
you
so.
take the photos even if they're not looking good until you get the good one.
Yeah.
I will not click that shutter. I will like, nope. No. I'm holding the camera, not even pointing it at my face anymore. Like, nope, everything looks bad. There is no point.
I think because also, you know, like working with people, there is a good chunk of the session that is just warming up.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of the session photos are like, maybe you get one or two that are okay, but it's about them feeling comfortable with them taking photos of them. That's why I just keep shooting and I try to move them around or just crack a joke, keep talking to them, and then, you know, things get better. And by the end, the photos are so much better.
I think I told this on I don't know if it was on your channel or something in the comments or on a previous podcast, but there was this story of one of my teachers. It was like in the film days when they had someone over in the studio. They would do a first fake roll with no film in the camera.
Nice.
Just to get through. Oh yeah, nice. Oh, you're looking good and everything. And then okay, now I'll put the film in.
I
didn't know they did do that, but that's kind of what I do with my digital.
I should, because that's the problem. Now I'm shooting mostly film, and every frame costs money. You know.
Yeah, I understand that you don't just shoot that way.
The other day I was shooting 4x5 portraits, and I'm like, I'm just not gonna even care about the photos as long as I get my focus, and then whatever is in the photo is in the photo. I'm not gonna even try to direct them. It's just like, no. And I was happy with one of them. I shot 4.
Yeah, that's a good
good ratio.
Good ratio.
Yeah, but
for sure.
Yeah, I was like stressing out so much to the point that I decided not to care anymore. It's like
it worked out.
Yeah. Now that it makes me think about it, like one thing I did, like shooting portrait with film is a great way to improve, to learn the mistakes, because every mistake costs money. And then, yeah, definitely.
But
people, if you have an analog camera, try it. It's going to cost you, but I think you're going to get better quick.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna do that tip from your teacher. Shoot a fake roll and then start really shooting. Right. How's it going in the chat?
Now they're a little bit silent. They were just talking about
any questions?
No questions that I can see here.
Do you think we missed anything, Cedric, that we wanted to talk about?
I think we spoke plenty about everything we had planned. So
yeah, I think it's a good one for people, especially people starting and having a bit of mysticism around editing.
Yeah, so let's kind of do like a summary here.
Yeah.
Let's read, because we derailed so much. It was really fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it as much as we did. But let's kind of hone in, take it home. Cedric, how about you? Give us like your,
take home messages.
Yeah, take us home.
Yeah, the summary. When you are beginning, you have to know that you're entering in this world with all the social media aspects and the communication around it. It's a business, and you have to be aware of it. And you have to be aware that the pictures you see are edited, sometimes heavily. It takes time. It's a craft. It's hard. I'm going to say, if you're not super invested in it, it's going to be boring to learn. It's going to be a bit confusing at times, but just stick with it. And if you have that awareness of how the world works, and that you realize that editing is important, and you have to find your own way of editing, because there are plenty of ways of editing. You have to find the one that works for you, watch tutorials, whatever. If you move with those 2 points close to you, like investing time in learning and realizing the economical aspects of the world, then you're going to do fine.
Yeah.
Agreed. I think what I kind of liked about the conversation that we had is the points that we hit on when it comes to being honest about your work.
Yeah.
So own it. Maybe even mention it as much as you can. People will take you more seriously if you're editing, or if you're. So now we're talking about composites. So if you're compositing images, be proud of it. Don't hide it, because it takes skills, and admit it to the world, because people need composite pictures.
Yeah.
So flex that if you're good at it, and of course you're gonna start learning. You're gonna get better and better. So I would say, yeah, you want to mention technical stuff about your photos, go ahead when you're posting it on social media. I mean, the caption line is there for a reason. And if maybe you're looking for further work in whatever you're trying to get really good at, that's a good way for people to hire you. You can put it in the hashtags if you don't want to put it in the text, but at least people will have a reference point. If you're a straight shooter, you're doing straight photography, so like a photojournalist type of stuff, again, promote it that way. Be honest about your work, whatever it is. Be proud of it, and we're all learning all the time. And I think that's, for me, that was the most important take.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, what you guys mentioned was very important. I think also for me, the part is that when you're starting, it's gonna take some time to find the way that you like to edit your pictures. What look do you want on your pictures? It's not only about the composition and the thing that you shot, but the edition. How do they look? It's gonna take some time to find out what it is that you like. So you're gonna have to do a lot of trial and error. There's nothing wrong to try to copy someone else's edit and see, okay, this I like it, this doesn't fit with my picture, maybe I like it a little bit more like this. You have to really go out and do a lot of scraps in order to find the final product that you like. And then with time, that product will also change, and you have to be lenient with yourself. It's like, yeah, before this worked for me, now it doesn't work, now I want to change a bit, now this fits more my vision. And it's going to be a constantly evolving work all throughout your life as a photographer.
Perfect.
So yeah.
All right, so I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Hope you really had a good time. Thank you, Cedric. I really always enjoy our conversations together. We should do them more often. You're going on vacation for a while, but I think, when do you think we can maybe do a next episode?
Early September.
Cool.
No problem.
Oh, cool, definitely.
Right. So everybody else, hope you have what is it today? It's Friday. So hope you have a nice weekend. Go out there, have some fun.
I think they're gonna all be stuck in VC because they wanna do a week-long VC non-stop. So I think actually after this, people are gonna join that VC again in case you guys want to continue talking.
It's been running
for 3 days.
For 3 days now. Our voice chat in the server. So hey, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast on your podcast app, check the links. Come join us, share your photos.
There's always someone active.
By the way, did I mention we have a photo contest every how long? I'm
every
so bad
week.
at dates. It's not every other
2
week.
weeks. Every second week.
Yeah. So every 2 weeks there's a photo contest, and it's really fun and cool to participate. We all vote and have fun.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different channels about editing, about feedback, about gear, even analog photography.
Come join us on Analog.
Join us. Let's have fun together with our photography. And wish you all the best.
All right, guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.